And we are live. Good morning, everybody. We've already got a crowd waiting. Sorry for the late start. I have so much to talk about today, but I was actually chatting, arguing, debating with a couple of my longtime clients and friends about what we're going to talk about today, which is, I took the slide down, how to authenticate email and SMS for marketing, because we're living in a brave new world where allegedly, and I'm not sure this is necessarily true. Let me see this. I'm looking for a new slide size. That looks good. Allegedly, they're going to fix what's wrong with all the spammers and scammers and everybody. Now, I don't know about you, but like to set the stage for today, 40 years of marketing, starting with putting flyers on cars in the parking lot of the mall. I understand the need for marketers to get their message out. However, in the world of infinite options for getting in people's faces, it seems like my mailbox, that metal contraption outside my house that people used to come by and put paper into, seems like that doesn't get a lot of attention. But what does get attention, my mailbox, my email box, and my SMS, especially my phone. Apple had promised me that they were going to stop all this messaging. I get 900 calls a day that now I can kind of see the pattern because it's all capital letters and it's some weird name like an Omaha, but it's like, hey, it's Buddy. I'm here from United Health Insurance. It's the same recording of a robocaller. But the point is that if you're going to market and you want to use, let's say, those two channels, you're going to have to learn what we're going to talk about today. And just to set the stage, I'm not going to go into the philosophy or the details of the underlying security protocols that some of the services make easy for you. Instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in on my, whoa. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the tools that we use, because here's the conversation. When I started in WordPress, we used to have to do everything manually. It was literally going into the forest, chop down a tree, take it, drag it behind the horse, carve it into a canoe, or use it to build a log cabin. Those days are over. We're now in the world where there are intermediary tools that are closer to the end result that you're looking for. So rather than having a philosophical debate like I was having with my colleague, client, friend, what is DKIM? What is DeMark? What is SPF? I'm going to tell you a little bit about those things, but I'm also going to explain to you, you don't need to know about them because they're irrelevant. So let's talk about the two channels. Good morning, Chris. Hello. Good morning. Good morning, Tina. Thank you guys for showing up as always. Let's talk about the two channels and how they're relevant. And actually, Chris is the Go High Level agency expert here, so this would resonate with him, but I think for a lot of you, this is going to be important. Okay. The two channels of communication, since we're really not focusing on putting stuff in the mail like postcards or physical mail, it's email and SMS. Now, let's start with SMS in general, because I think that's an easier channel. I myself enjoy using text messaging. I myself know that there are plenty of apps on the iPhone and on the Android, like WhatsApp and everything else. I feel like that's the most easily abused tool in a relationship. However, and it should be more clear this month, because I'm officially going to be working with Go High Level has made the text messaging into a powerful tool, an SMS tool. Likewise, working with Shah Jahan Jewel, Fluent Bookings in particular, as well as some of their other features, have also made SMS a tool where you can use the features of a company we're going to talk about today called Twilio. Twilio is the trusted third-party intermediary that gets you closer to the end results without having to do all the hard stuff. And they act as the place where you can have all of your features in one. And ironically, Twilio owns the company I'm going to talk about as well, which is SendGrid, which is going to manage the SMTP stuff for email. So in your SMS, here's the kind of things we're going to talk about. You have the capability of paying a very small amount of money, either directly to Twilio or through your Go High Level or something, to have what's called a virtual phone number. The virtual phone number is what you're going to be using primarily for your outgoing messaging. However, it is possible, if you wish, to have it as an incoming business phone number. It is possible to have it as an incoming and an outgoing, going back and forth text message service. In other words, if you would like people to actually request your services, if you would like to respond to people, you can connect it either directly to your phone or through an app or on the website in such a way that it becomes a channel, either one directional or two directional. So think of email. SMS is very similar to email, except the delivery vehicle is not a metal box on the outside of your house, and it's not an email. It is a different format, but very similar to email, but just more immediate. And you can do it one directional or two directional. Now, just like with email, it's absolutely imperative. I mean, you don't have a choice that you have to use a trusted intermediary service. So that's what Twilio is essentially. They are the trusted intermediary service. And I know there are others, but they're the number one, where you can buy an account to connect to this world. And the way you do it is by a virtual number. You could technically also, by the way, if you're asking yourself, you could connect it to your real phone number. But here's why I don't think you should. If you have a cell phone, let's say I have a cell phone from Verizon or AT&T or something, that's the phone that you use for your whole life. If you just directly connected that for business, I mean, maybe that's the life you want to have, but everybody, you know, whether it's for business or not, is going to be banging you on that number and vice versa. And that's a drag. Plus, there's a great possibility that you might decide to do something different in business, or you might decide to change the business, or you might get in trouble and something happens where that business number that you're using gets blacklisted. It would be a drag if that was the personal phone number, because we all understand how hard it is today to change your phone number, okay? So by using a virtual number, you can do things in a more compartmentalized way. And in a way that's going to get into what I'm going to talk about, which is for SMS, in order to use a trusted intermediary service like Twilio, there are federal regulations now in the United States, which, let's be honest, that's the primary customer base we're talking about here for most of my clients, that requires you to do two things. You must register that phone. Who the heck is this virtual phone number associated with? So that it doesn't end up being maybe abused as much. And number two, you actually have to file a campaign. Much like we're going to talk about in a second, you have to do with email if you're using a SMTP provider. The campaign is sort of saying, and it's me, and here's what I'm going to do about it. Here's what I'm going to do with this thing. So in other words, like the first thing is, I don't want to get into that conversation. So I was about to say, like, okay, like buying a handgun or something. First, you need to get a license to own one. You have to get registered, identify who you are. Then you have to do step two, which is, what am I going to do with this thing? And in this case, let's not talk about guns, but like in this case, you're identifying the two things as part of the registration and the client process at Twilio. So it is not difficult, but it does require some basic steps. And today I'm not going to do like, let's do A, B, C, D. I'm going to talk about the high level. So to review, for SMS, you can get a virtual phone number that can be used for phone, voice, which you can connect forwarded to your cell phone, forwarded to your desktop if you still have one of those phones, or just in a virtual sense through an app like a WhatsApp, which essentially allows you to still ring your phone, but it doesn't actually in any way connect to the phone. Number two, you have the ability to do messaging, one directional, hey, broadcast, or two directional, hey, let's talk via SMS. And the third thing you have to do is when you're doing that, by the way, you can keep a log of all that stuff. You can also use it for other tangential services. So the same company, Twilio, owns SendGrid, which allows you to do email. Now, here's one thing that's clever about the mixing of the worlds. Chris and I will be doing more of this in some media we're going to create. One of the compelling things that Go High Level makes really easy, but you can do, as I said, directly on WordPress with Fluent, is you could theoretically have somebody text you, and that text has a phone number. Perhaps you also ask them for their name. That would immediately create a new contact in your CRM. So imagine the scenario, you've got a business cell phone number and you're not just using it like for outbound notification of you've bought a product or you've registered for a massage. Instead, you're using it for people to call you and ask you a question. One of the compelling features that I feel Go High Level offers, which Chris and I will be elaborating on further, that person calls your number, leaves a message. Hey, it's Spence. I'd like to know about your blah, blah. Because Go High Level takes the data from Twilio about the phone number, it automatically creates a new lead and it has information about, hi, it's Spence leaving a message. Now, you still have to do something with that. But if you think about it, it's like the old fashioned putting your business card in the fishbowl. Just because someone has called you or texted you at your business virtual number, you've got a lead. And here's what's really neat with that. You can follow up with that lead because you can go, oh, they're in my CRM. I know it's Spencer Foreman. Here's what he wants. And you add some more data to their CRM profile, which could automatically trigger all kinds of follow-ups. Sending you an information package. Here's an offer to buy whatever. We're having a live event on Friday. And so what's really cool about this is that whether you're doing it on the Go High Level connection or you're doing it through the Fluent CRM, Fluent Forms, what I'm saying is there are ways to connect your WordPress environment to SMS or to a virtual phone number that allow you to take people in, not just through the traditional using of a form. Like I've shown you, let's go over here. Like at spencerforeman.com, I'm using a traditional form. I'm going to come to Chris's comment in a second, but let's go over here. I'll repost your comment in a second. So here, this is a traditional form using Fluent Forms where I'm taking in the first name and the email. But imagine a situation where it's like they just texted you or left you a voicemail and the same thing's happening. You're adding them to the CRM. So really powerful, but that's all good. You don't need special permission for that. The outgoing is what you need permission for. And so Chris was commenting, as frustrating as the setup process of A2P is, these new rules are the best chance we have of ending spam. Right. So here's the origin story as far as I can tell. We used to allow anybody to email anything, anywhere, anytime. At some point, we all realized we were getting abused by that one dude in a garage in Florida who had like spam server farm. He was sending out 1 trillion messages a day and just killing everybody. They came up with the Can Spam Act. And they made it that you have to have like an unsubscribe link at the bottom. The business itself, at a cost to the freedom, but at a necessary cost to the freedom, evolved where you need to have for email that intermediary trusted sender, along with the various security protocols that my friend and I were talking about, SPF and DKIM and DeMark, to let the trusted intermediaries talk to each other and validate, hey, this is my good friend Spence. He's paying me money. Let his email through. That's the system in email. Well, similarly, text messaging, SMS got away with a lot of crazy Wild West stuff for a long time, but they finally realized it's not going to hold up any longer if somebody's phone is ringing 24 hours a day with spam messages sent by mass SMS services. Hold on. Okay. So the purpose of all these other things is to give everybody a fair shot at keeping the channel clear, keeping the highways kind of open for regular traffic. So somebody is not just taking advantage of it at their own discretion. I mean, they still do, but there's consequences now because now, especially with the registration. Okay. So let me just give an outline and then let's talk about the practical effects of this. So to review, good old mailboxes, bring on the dead trees. I mean, I think they just no longer do it, which is a pleasure to me because honestly, I get like one piece of mail a day at best versus I felt so sad when my mailbox would be just filled with paper coupons and paper magazines. Like, why are you sending me all this stuff? Like nobody's going to read it. It goes right from the tree to the garbage. So mailbox, maybe if you send postcards for marketing, it might be clever once in a while or something like I get I'm not wearing it, but my bling, you send somebody bling and they wear it. That's a good idea. But like for marketing in traditional ways, probably not going to be your best channel, although an open channel. Channel 2, virtual phone number, SMS, texting, 1- and 2-way communication, either directly to your virtual number on a desktop, to, if you want, forward it to your cell phone, but don't directly use your cell phone number. Or 3 would be using like a service such as a WhatsApp or WhatsApp to connect to, so that you can use a device, but it's not associated directly with that device's number, so you can keep some degree of control over that. And then the third channel is the email. And the email is, as we've seen, marketing outbound email. So just to clarify, when people set up their WordPress website, it does not matter what you are using to get email. Incoming email in today's 2024 world is not typically done by most normal people anymore using the servers like Squirrel Mail or Pop3 account. Almost everybody, hopefully, uses a high-end delivery service. And typically today we'll see somebody will have a Google Workspace account, or Gmail even, Office 365, God forbid, but there's Yahoo and some other companies. I do think there's even people who still have like AOL Mail. I heard they make billions of dollars a year still from people who just never changed. But for most people, just having a Google business account or Google Workplace account is what you would use, both for getting like your domain and the things to operate in that ecosystem of having a YouTube account and having a validated place to share files and stuff. But you're mostly using it for a way to have a delivery service, inbound mail. But for outgoing mail, things that you're sending to market, you need to have a trusted intermediary SMTP service. And while Google, to a certain degree, will allow you to send, I think, 100 to 500 messages a day, that's really not going to be enough for a normal business. You're going to need a service that there's about 50 of them, but the big ones are about 12 to 13. Amazon SES, SendGrid, Mailgun, and so forth. So let's do some practical stuff. Number 1, here is a launch kit site. That is not a launch kit site. Here is a launch kit site. Let's first of all just talk about where this all fits into place. In general, when you're doing the email part of things with the launch kit site or with the Marketing Hub site, you have your choice of sending out email from the WordPress side of things, or if you're using, again, Go High Level, you could send it out directly from Go High Level. Right now, I'm going to focus on the WordPress side of things because it's applicable both ways, but the concept is the same. You need to connect an SMTP trusted service, as we talked about, in order to send out one of two things. Your transactional email, which is like stuff you've registered for the site, you've bought a product, you've clicked this box. These are things that have to do with what's going on the site. Number 2 would be marketing. This is the big one, because marketing email is where you're going to be like, I have a list of 3,000 people and I need to tell them about the live event. That kind of stuff will not go through unless you have this relationship with a service. So if in Fluent SMTP, we click here, we can see that out of the box, LaunchKit comes with the ability to do this in like 3 minutes. In fact, yesterday I have a new client, Dallas. We literally set up his whole site, got him up and running in under 60 minutes, including like 3 minutes for this and 5 minutes for that. So here I would choose from, these are some very well known, but not the complete comprehensive list of trusted SMTP services: AWS, Mailgun, SendGrid, Brevo, SparkPost, Netcore, Elastic Email. You can use Google Workspace, like I mentioned, if there's a certain limit, or you can pay a premium, Microsoft 365, and then just good old PHP if you have some wildcard thing. SendGrid is super easy because all that you end up doing is having your email. You put in, if you want, the name of your business. Like if I wanted to say, it's from Spence, I would force my name to be sent, and then I would put in the email that I've registered. So maybe it's help@wplaunchify.com. Whatever I'm registering with this trusted intermediary for sending my marketing mail needs to be the same. If it's not the same, the stuff is not going to go out. Why? Because as I just talked about, you've got the service sort of vouching for you. Hey, this is a good guy. We got him registered. He's got his stuff here. It has to be the same email, the same name, or else it's not going to be able to vouch for you, right? That's the whole point. Okay. And then finally, you put in the key. So there's as simple as that. That's the process. And I'm going to come back to this in a second. But once you do that, with LaunchKit, all you need to do is you test it, and then you uncheck this box. You are rocking and rolling for all of your transactional emails to go out, all of your marketing emails to go out. It's that simple. And if you don't do that, you can keep it in this mode until such time as your business is set up, which again makes this so simple because we give you the ability to immediately see the logs of everything that's being sent out in the meantime. So you can see, for example, like you can start using your site and testing out the orders and testing out the automations without even having to worry about real people getting emails. When you're ready, you simply check the checkbox and everything starts to work. Let's talk about where would you use the SMS inside of WordPress. Well, really, it's going to mostly happen in Fluent bookings for now. But it can also be used directly with other stuff. You can use it, for example, with WooCommerce. You can use it as a response for Fluent forms. I mean, there's lots of ways there's Twilio connection to do stuff. But the one that I think you really need to focus on here, the easiest one, somebody's booking something. Like I'm booking a massage or I'm booking an appointment to have my Akashic records read. Okay. With Fluent bookings, there is a setup. Let's go to settings general. There's a setting here to connect your SMS by Twilio. And all we do is we set up the account. We pick a virtual number, which will be, I think, geographically in your area code. That's what I did. Then you could do optional. Remember, I just said you can also do a WhatsApp number. So if you want to run that on your phone, at least with a WhatsApp, you can turn it off, right? And this is where I need my, I really feel bad because I have the whole thing in here. This is really where I need to have my, my sound effects. A WhatsApp number is an optional setup. You are going to put in two account numbers. One is the SID and one is a token. That's what's going to connect this API in your WordPress site directly to Twilio. By the way, for the Go High Level folks, it's the same thing, except this is internal to the dashboard there. So you get the same result. It's just we're working in the WordPress interface here for the things you're doing with WordPress. If you are talking the Go High Level, which Chris and I will be elaborating on in the future, some of those cool things like I started with today, like maybe I want to use the Go High Level CRM and I want to have the app that allows me to do this, that, and that. It doesn't mean you can't do all the amazing things here. It's just those are one or two extra bonus features on top of what you do here. So the same number can be used in both locations. All right. How do we set up these services? Well, number one, I'm a huge fan of this Twilio company. I have been for a long time because years ago when I built houses, I used to have a phone called a Nextel phone. It was like for contractors. It was about yay big. It was kind of a flippy phone. And you'd go chirp, chirp. And what it was is it was like a hybrid between a cell phone and a walkie-talkie for people who had contractors. So you could economically have like 50 people working for you, all talking to each other on like a private walkie-talkie, but it also had cell phone capabilities. And at the time it was revolutionary. The company folded when the cell phone costs became more normal and everybody just had a cell phone. But at the time, revolutionary. Now, I had a phone number back in those days that for a while I didn't want to lose. So Twilio and I had our first date when I used Twilio to take that number and park it virtually. And I still do to this day. So if somebody who knew me back in the 90s wants to call me, from college or something, from law school, they can still get to me because Twilio does that as a service. Now, let's talk about not the step-by-step details, but what you're going to do at Twilio is you're looking for their messaging product, okay? So you can start for free here, but you're using their messaging product. And I'm just going to talk about this in vague enough terms. You can start for free to play with it today, but I'm assuring you, you really can't do anything with it until you finish the registration. Nevertheless, the reason I'm not going to go into this too is one of the things that they do really well is security. So when you try to start an account, it won't let you do anything without two-factor authentication. In fact, maybe I'm just going to do this. I don't think I'm going to give up anything here if I do this. Let's go to, let me authenticate in. And you see it's sending to my cell phone. 435-201, I think. Hold on. 45. Live without a net. I'm logging in. Now this is for a client account. I don't think I'm giving anything away here because this token is. So don't call this number. This is one of my client's text numbers that I'm managing for her. But nevertheless, you can see here, here's her Twilio phone number. She was able to pick a phone number. We did it together in her area code. And there is, hi Dallas, good morning. Thanks for joining us. We're talking about, actually, I was just mentioning what we went through yesterday together. So we picked the Twilio phone number. She happens to be here in the Chicagoland area, 847. We copied the SID and the token, and we just basically, we pasted it into these appropriate fields, right? Here was the number, here was the SID, here was the token. The second thing that we talked about earlier in today's event is that we had to go ahead and set up the messaging service, right? So when we set it up, there was the regulatory compliance. Now, this is this A2P 10 DLC. I know that was an amazing rap group back in the 80s. I loved them in high school, but now they are in the regulatory business. And you can see now there's even a notice, all US messages from unregistered 10 DLC phone numbers are now blocked. Please registered, get approval. And this is the conversation that I was having with you guys as well as my other clients. It's not hard. In fact, yesterday with Dallas, I was shocked because it went through like on the spot. Whereas with my other client, the one I'm showing here, it took about a day, but it came through fast. And you can read here that they're basically saying since August of last year, hey, this is out of control. We need to put a, so there's two things. One is the registration, and two is the a campaign. What are you going to do with this thing, this dangerous weapon you've just bought? And once you've gone through that, and there's things that I'll have further examples of this in our documentation, whatever, you're good to go. So you're one of the good guys, one of the good people who is using the service. And now Twilio can vouch for you. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail, but what's happened here is because we're really, in this case, using the SMS only for sending messages from Fluent Booking, Deneen is my client here. She is not using this to communicate with her cell phone. So in other words, we have set up her Fluent Booking so that once this is configured, we went into the calendars for whomever it may be, and we added a new host. So let's say we add a new host here. We're going to do Spencer. Let's see if I got somebody in here. We'll make it me. We're going to do one-to-one meetings. And let's just create an event, a sample event. Once you set up an event, we need a location type. So let's say it's in person. Okay. Once you've set up an event with Fluent and you got the calendar, the whole point is you can then say, notify the customers of everything that's relevant via SMS instead of using email. So you see here on the left, we could use any of the notifications through the traditional email, but we can also use SMS. Okay. And it says here, please configure Twilio, which I was just showing you. Now that's super, super cool because on the WordPress side of things, if it works for your business, for your marketing, somebody can buy something, somebody can schedule something, somebody can submit a form, somebody can start a lesson, and you could send them an SMS instead of an email. If you feel you are not going to annoy them too much. Now keep that in mind. Let's get real here for a second. Look, I've got this new feature. I think this is going to be very helpful. Okay. Don't annoy your customers like I was talking about with the mailbox outside. Proper marketing is a relationship. It needs to be respectful of each other's time and what you're doing. Do not become overzealous in your new toy, which is, I feel, something that happens a lot with the Go High Level crowd, even though I love them to death, because I signed up for their online service. I'm kind of like, let me consume your stuff when I want. But out of the box, Bing, da bang, bada boom, bada bang. My phone was lighting up like a Christmas tree with messages. And it was a little disconcerting to me because I wasn't expecting it. Like, who are these people? Why are you reaching out to me? Is something on fire? What's the problem? So be very conscientious of how you use the SMS, even though technically you can do it for so much inside of either WordPress or your CRM. Let's talk about the fact that Twilio owns SendGrid. Now, what would be super cool, but it doesn't exist, would be if you could go to Twilio and directly connect to SendGrid, but it just doesn't work out that way. So if we go to SendGrid.com, because there are those 9 other choices or so that I showed you, SendGrid offers the best and simplest way to bypass all of the things that you need to set up because they manage it for you. And I've showed you this before, but in this case, again, you can start for free here. If you look at their pricing, it's free for like 100 messages a day. You can play around with it, but don't waste your time. Just go directly to the essentials and accept that for up to 50,000 emails a day, your marketing can be covered for $19.95 and everything will get through. Dallas says, I still need to send the email to support asking them to verify. True. So it might be possible that even though we set it up and it looked like it was good, I would say probably, Dallas, it's probably going to come through today. It looked like it was done and maybe it was done, but it's a third party that's validating your campaign that's literally physically being looked at by a person. So if you gave it 24 hours, I don't think that's going to be extraordinary. That's how long it took for this other client to need. Okay, but back to the email. So just go right to the email plan, put your credit card in. When you do, let me sign in as one of my accounts here. I'm going to sign as my Launchify account. Wait for the 2-factor. Here it comes. Which, by the way, I'm not annoyed by it. I appreciate the security, but it gets exhausting. I have to look at it on my phone. They give you an option allegedly to turn off the 2-factor. Not going to happen. You're going to have to do 2-factor every time you want to log into here, no matter what they say. 7299332. Which, by the way, that's okay. I guess it's better than finding out somebody else has logged into you. Now, here you can see my delivery rates and open rate. This is all interesting. I use this for my WP Launchify site. This is not necessarily used for my marketing. It's used for mostly transactional stuff, but it's a convenient cost of business to have every single thing sent from my business website almost guaranteed. And if not, I'll know exactly why. I mean, I actually never log into this dashboard for any reason. But what I do is that once you've started the account, you're going to go into settings and you're going to get an API key. Okay. I'm not going to do this, but once you've added your credit card and once you're saying like, I'm doing this, you simply click in, get your API key. That API key is what we're going to go back and put into Fluent SMTP, like I showed you about 5 minutes ago. That is going to, along with the email that you identify, enable this service and allow SendGrid to vouch for you. So the second thing is we have sender authentication. This is where this debate came in with my friend, who is very knowledgeable, but he apparently still likes to chop trees down in the forest and build canoes out of them. And I was saying, you don't need to worry about all of the security protocols. Why? Because SendGrid essentially immediately connects to your DNS and it does all that stuff for you. Here's how. Single sender verification is the shortest way to immediately start using your email. In fact, Dallas would vouch for this. Yesterday, we connected his email that he already had from Gmail or Google Workspace. Put it in, and you can see here I've got 2 of them validated. One is help at WP Launchify, one is demo at wplaunchify.me, which I don't even think I use that anymore. Nevertheless, you simply add an email in here, and it just says, go check your email box. And if you click on it and respond to it, it immediately lets you start using the service. Now, I think there's some throttles on that, like it won't let you go full Monty, like 50,000 emails, but it's enough to get started, which is an amazingly convenient thing. In order to be fully functional, Google and Yahoo have said single sender verification is not going to hold water anymore. we need you to do domain authentication. We need to know that you're actually in control of the domain from which this email is being sent. And if you think about it, that's the reason why you really need to have something like a Google Workspace email or a Gmail or something that has your domain associated with it. You need to have something that is not Spencer123@AOL.com. It has to be help@wplaunchify.com, Spencer@spencerforeman.com, because that way I can connect my domain name through the DNS records to SendGrid so it can do all of the validation it needs, set up the DeMark, set up the DKIM and the SPF, set up everything to just vouch for you. It's your pass-through. It's very similar in some ways, even though it's doing a different thing. It's very similar to how, like, in the reverse situation, you're going to use something like a Cloudflare, both for your DNS services as well as your firewall. It's essentially like your bouncer at the door, but it's also the concierge that's talking to all the other bouncers and concierges to get stuff done, right? So if you're staying at the Four Seasons Hotel and you want to get tickets to a Broadway show, if you're wealthy and famous, you pick up the phone, maybe they'll know who you are. But it's really better to ask the concierge or the doorman or the bouncer, hey, can you get me those tickets? Because they know first person all the people at the other side who will basically give them what they need, and you just pay for that transactional service, okay? When you authenticate your domain, here's what's so amazingly simple. You choose one of these hosts. There's not every host, but most hosts. And if you use something like GoDaddy, it's a no-brainer, because the next step is it just says, which domain do you want to use? You click next, and it essentially gives you an open auth. Do you consent to connecting from SendGrid to GoDaddy? Yes. It does all your records for you. If you say no, or if you have, like yesterday, Dallas had an unusual host, you just use other hosts not listed. You could type it in. You go to the next step. It will give you 4 records. 3 of them are C names, and 1 of them is a text. And you simply copy and paste those into your domain host so that SendGrid can accomplish all the same stuff that we were just talking about. And so, again, I don't know if my pal is on here. I don't see him commenting, but my professional pal who is still doing all this DKIM and SPIF and DeMark stuff himself, God bless you. But I've moved on. I've moved on to this. Why? Because let's talk about the reasons we're doing this. Chris and I have been discussing, this is why the Go High Level is a compelling add-on to the WordPress, but it's why the WordPress is a compelling solution for anyone. Really what we're doing is we're just moving our professional place closer to the end result of our expertise. In the old days, our expertise was, I know of a forest and I have an axe and I can chop down the right type of tree in the right time of year and carve it into a table and pull it along through the snowy, ground to your cabin where you can use it in the springtime. Well, we're in a modern world. We have infinite tools now, infinite tools. We have an infinite amount of confusion by smart people on how to use these tools. Everybody can be debating ad infinitum about which tools to use because we have so many of them. Just like when I was a kid, hey, flashback. When I was a kid, I had 4 channels on TV. Tuesday night at 7:30 was Happy Days. That's it. Friday night at 8:30, Love Boat. That's it. Today, there's a trillion channels, and I sit down with my kids. Some are adults and some are still teenagers, and it's like arguing over which of the 1,000 things to do. That's the problem that your clients have. So by moving yourself closer up to that decision-making and getting out of the business of building the tools and worrying about the tools, instead getting in the business of, like Marie Kondo, swimming through and saying, Spence said, and gave me everything I need that's 1 inch away from where my client is willing to pay me for it. You spend your days just making happy people with stuff that's pre-made, like running a restaurant and delivering bowls of soup, ramen or otherwise, is an incredibly easy way to deliver happiness versus, I don't know, going to the supermarket and picking out 25 ingredients, going home, chopping it up, and leaving all the rest of it in the cupboard or the fridge to make 1 bowl of soup. Like, they're different businesses. One is delivering a definitive outcome very quickly for a set of people that have a similar problem. One of them is trying to make it from scratch. It's just not the same thing. So that's why all of this is relevant to you, whether it's for your own business or whether it's for an intermediary. I'm hopefully demonstrating you today that for marketing purposes, maybe a mailbox is still good for surprising somebody. Like, I love getting bling in the mail. I wish I had more of it right now, but like, oh, I have my, I got this from Chris and the gang. Lifter LMS on one side. They blinged it up with lunch flows on the back of the other side. Okay. I've got my hats and my shirts and my mugs and glasses and goggles and all that stuff. I love that. So use the mailbox for joy and surprise. Send postcards, send tchotchkes, send bling. With your brand, with your message, with your whatever. Use email respectfully for transactional purposes at the time of sale. Again, let me show you one thing. When you're doing it, you'll do things like with WooCommerce. I'll show you this in a second. Or use it for the marketing follow-up using either Fluent CRM or your Go High Level connection to let somebody know something informative via email when they click or buy or purchase or subscribe or complete whatever. And finally, if you have the type of audience that will respect this, you can have a virtual phone number for people to call you, which, by the way, if we go to wplaunchify.com, this is not a Twilio number. It is a Google number, Google Voice, which does the same thing. This is a virtual number. It does not come from a Verizon or anybody else. It comes from Google. Now, I could get this from Twilio as well. My Twilio number will ring directly through to my cell phone. This one will go to my Google Voice. I have an app on my phone. That's how, because I'm not using Go High Level for that, that's how I do what Go High Level does. Somebody texts me, somebody calls me, I see it on my phone. But like with a WhatsApp, I have control over yes or no to answer it. The difference between the two is that does not immediately add somebody into my CRM. That's kind of the cool feature of the using a similar service directly in Go High Level. But we'll talk about those details later. The point is, it's a channel that somebody can reach me on. So if you have somebody who wants to call you or you want to call them back, this is a virtual business phone. It could also be used for the purposes of one-way messaging. Hey, you just did this. Hey, you got an appointment. Something's coming up. Or it could be used for two-way. Let's have a conversation. Yes or no? Do you want to order this product? Hey, there's an event. Are you going to make it? You see this with doctors' offices and so forth. But the other cool part about that is it can interact with your CRM, whether you're doing it through the Fluent Booking or whether you're doing it through Go High Level. And it's a channel that really requires respect, because otherwise you're just going to annoy, I was going to say the P word. You're going to annoy people. If they are not expecting you to be texting them and SMS messaging them, don't. One takeaway, when Go High Level first came out, I have a client who may be here today, Jim, who was a real fan of what they were doing before I was really impressed with what they're doing, who showed me their bot feature. And I said, no bueno, the bots. Because the bot was like voice jail, but wouldn't leave me alone. It was like, it was chasing me around on my phone, and it was clearly a bot, and I couldn't get it to stop. And it was worse than a normal voice jail, because on a voice jail, you kind of know, hit pound, 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 or hit 000, or say agent, agent, agent. I couldn't figure out how to shut this thing down, and it just kept banging away at me. I had to ask Jim at the time to turn it off. So just be really careful when you do it. All right. If there's any questions, let me know. But like in general, I think this is a good primer of the takeaway is stay focused on why you're using one of these channels for marketing. Use the ability to start much closer to the end client or your own business reason. Respect the relationship, okay? And don't worry about, even though you have to go through it, don't worry about all the regulation, because the regulation is, it's like getting your driver's license renewed. It's like filling out your annual tax return. It's a pain in the tuchus, but it's not like anything that requires you to worry or get upset about. And that's what we do here with WP Launch Kit and WP Marketing Hub. We make it easy. Dallas, if you want to pipe in, you can explain or say high five about whether the experience was easy. But like, he was very conscientious about a lot of stuff. And when we went through the setup, I mean, it was just bing, bang, boom, bang, bang, boom. And we were done in a very pleasant, short amount of time. And it's not so much that I was giving him like Spence is a genius. It was more of, I just know where all the pieces are. And that's the kind of service that you can actually use the Launch Kit for yourself, for your clients or the Marketing Hub. They're not going to bother figuring all this stuff out. To them, it looks as scary as filling out, a real text form. It's just 3 steps or 4 steps. So that's what I'm really trying to achieve here with you guys. Dr. Krieger is here today. Hi, Carrie. Simple ways to confirm the DKIM, SPIF, and DeMark have been approved or are correct. Well, what's interesting is that there are tools that will allow you to validate it. But if we were to literally go over here, I don't worry about this anymore, because if you go to, I don't know if this is blind, by the way, SendGrid, how to verify DeMark. Okay. They've got instructions about everything here. Okay. And what I'm suggesting is, out of the box, I don't want to get too technical. DeMark is essentially like the campaign thing for SMS. DeMark is a way for you to say, how do you want to be notified about different things that are going on, and vice versa with your email. And at the same time, it works with the 2 other security protocols. So anybody who wants to get into that stuff, you can read up on this all day long. Okay. In December, SendGrid added a basic DeMark record to the DNS records page in the console. You can do everything you need to do in here. The out-of-the-box default is essentially, I don't care. I know this sounds stupid, but like, there's a thing that lets you say to SendGrid, what do you want to do if something happens? Or what do you want to do to be notified of stuff? Out of the box, you can just do nothing. You could just say, like, take care of it for me. That's what I do. Because I just don't really need. And you can read up all about this. But here's my answer. My short answer is, there was a time when I worried about setting up my hosting configuration. There was a time when I worried about setting up like all the nuances of my cPanel and my WHM or my whatever. I had video cameras that required me to set million settings in my operating system. I don't do that anymore because none of it makes me any money. What I'm saying to you guys is, if you do nothing other than use this service, everything will work perfectly fine. That I can vouch for. If you want to dig deeper, just search for those terms and you will find it. But Dr. Krieger is an amazing, smart guy. We've been friends and he's been my client for a long time. He likes to get in those nitty gritties. You can have a whole weekend of fun digging in on this stuff, but I have found that I don't need to think about it anymore, and I prefer that. Peter, hello, Peter. I'd love to have virtual phone access for my customers. Okay, let me just share with you guys, then there's 2 alternatives here. Independently, I would suggest at Twilio, we already have an account here. At Twilio, you can add a phone number. So for example, if you go to phone numbers, manage, you can buy a number. Now, I've already shown you Dean's number, so it's not a surprise, but like, see, I can search for any area code I want. Like I used to go to school in Champaign-Urbana, 217. I can get one in Vallejo, California. You can essentially buy one, and it's costing you about a monthly fee of $1, $1.50, something. These say, depending on where it's located, these are $1.15. That same number, you'll notice, see where the capabilities, voice, SMS, MMS, or fax. So almost all of them have the capabilities to do everything. If I was searching, for example, 312, which is Chicago, I'm sure there's gonna be a jillion possible number. Oh, that can't be right. Let's do this way. That's interesting that it doesn't actually have Chicago. Maybe they're not offering it because they're so in demand, but you can see a lot of the suburbs around Chicago here, 224 and so forth. So, you can pick one here, pay $1.15. Number 2, you could do, I don't think I would nowadays, you could do Google Voice. which was back in the day a pretty good arrangement. And I still have the number. I don't think it cost me a lot. Here it is, right? So you can see what's neat about this is I have the same like virtual console, and I can make calls from it. I can forward it. I can port it. And when something gets texted to me, you can see here, here's those SendGrid codes. They come through on my phone, but they're being ported through here. Okay. So Google Voice is an option. And then the third option, which is something that I think Chris and I will be offering as part of this, is that because I'm going to be in official capacity with Go High Level, I think there's going to be a value to many people using both the Go High Level for these one or two cool features in the stack. So even with everything else, including Fluent CRM, there's the feature I started with, like virtual phone number with text messaging and automation and all that. That might be a compelling feature for a business. And because it gets all those other value propositions, whether you get your own account or whether you take a sub account or something off of us, the idea being is that it's something that you could add into your business for probably the exact same cost, but with all the connections and the automation stuff figured out for you, right? Putting you one step closer to the end. So great question. Do you guys have any other questions before I wrap it up? I'm very excited. I got a lot of stuff going on today, not the least of which is the sun is out. I am really happy. I have so many of you launching, but I've got some new partnership stuff that I want to talk about as well. So having said that, hold on one second. I will call you back in 1 second. I'm just finishing a live show. Call you right back. So people are waiting on me. I can't thank you guys enough for participating, but I have some new announcements. There's Donna. Hi, Donna. I have some new announcements that I'll send out via email. We've got some really cool features coming up, and we've also got so many of your success stories. I am happy to say, if she is here today, Anne has launched. She's official over at Nutritify. Deneen has launched. Carrie has been running like a madman anyway. I know Chris has been doing his stuff. Peter is in process, but like many, if not all of my clients, some of whom aren't here today that were in December, have all launched. And it's proven out the model that everything works as it should. Actually, I'm really proud of Anne. So I'm going to show one thing real quick. She's at Nutritify. And I've spoken about her product and services so often. Let's see if the domain pointed this morning. It does. This is just a supreme example of, oh, thank you, Anne. Anne is here. She's just terrific. We have a great relationship because she has just worked through all of this hard stuff and come full circle to the simplest stuff, which is she's selling the $47 nutritionist site as a page, monthly or annually, plus the concierge upsell. Now look at how amazing this is. It's using all the same stuff. Here's the sample page that a nutritionist gets, right? It's just off the shelf launch kit cadence. Click to go back. Here's the pricing, right? Monthly 47, annual 497. Just click to get started. Add on concierge customization for an hour. Could not be easier. She launched officially last night. I think this morning we got the domain pointed. She's going to kill it. She's got the launch flows upsell right in here. So just click here, add the 250. Somebody can check out and buy. It connects to her Fluent CRM. It's going to be amazing. And the net result is that she's also using a much simpler setup using, again, a little bit of dynamic content, but mostly it's just patterns and using, the common sense of what we've got under the hood. So I'm wishing her all the best, and we're going to make sure that this is a great success. But for everybody who's launched and all of you who are in process, I am grateful for you sticking with me. I'm a mess physically, but I'm improving every day. And I think this is what gets me out of bed in the morning, is knowing that I have you guys to work with and sharing your success. Thank you. I'm going to go run. I've got my neighbor. I've got a friend coming to lunch. I've got the electrician. I hope it's a great day and a great weekend for you. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.